So I'm happy to welcome Mr. Pradeep Jayaraman. The Vizhinjam International Seaport in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. It's a significant infrastructure project by Adani Group, which is again in partnership with the state government. Initiated in December 2015, now the port is poised to be one of India's first deepwater container transshipment hub. So how is Vizhinjam project will put India on a global maritime map?
If you look at it, India never had a dedicated transshipment terminal or transshipment port. It has always been done bits and pieces in one of those existing ports, predominantly from Mumbai and Mundra. And also geographically, none of our east coast can handle large ships because of the depth that is needed to handle. So almost all of our east coast exports go either to Colombo or in the reverse direction towards Singapore and Malaysia, and then gets transshipped here, right? So this adds a significant cost because there are multiple handlings, because there is a transport, there is a transshipment at a couple of terminals or ports, and then it gets routed through the destination. And then there is also a time, people add 2 to 3 weeks additional time for it to reach the destination. So this puts our Indian exporters on a significant disadvantage compared to certain other countries. So yes, this is going to, even though this is Kerala's project, but this is going to have a significant impact at a national level because everybody that is predominantly the south of India, the east coast of India is going to benefit through Vizhinjam transshipment terminal.
Yes, but as far as the state is concerned, it's almost about revenue generation, right? So, how Vizhinjam Port is going to have a transformative impact on Kerala's economy.
So even though this is a transshipment, everybody talks about this as a transshipment terminal, and a significant portion of the cargo that we handle is going to be transshipment. But this has every bit of a potential to also be a gateway terminal or a gateway port. 2-3 things, right? So one is today the entire south, where fairly advanced industrialized states are there, their exports go through transshipment.
Yeah.
I'll give you a classic example. When US retailers source the cargo from Bangalore region, that cargo goes from Bangalore to Mumbai by road. And then from there, because Mumbai is the port that gets US service, and that's about 1300 kilometers by road, and Vizhinjam is about 600 kilometers. The second advantage is that the moment the US calls, a US vessel calls Mundra or Mumbai, they end up going to Karachi, they end up going to Salalah or Jebel Ali, 2-3 other stops before it kind of hits the US coast. With Vizhinjam being there, this is going to be non-stop, right? So we already have services that is towards the US east coast, that is to Europe. So it stops at Vizhinjam and the next stop is maybe a London or Portugal or something like that, right? So that's a kind of an advantage that we have. So the exporters are positively looking at Vizhinjam as also a gateway terminal. So what does this mean to Kerala, right? So that means that, plus also with the industrial policies that is being announced fairly aggressively by the state government, you expect a lot of fulfillment centers, logistics parks and other stuff that will start coming in as step one. And in step two, export-oriented industries will start coming in, where the raw material is imported, manufactured goods are exported. And then the third thing is this will maybe become a larger industrialized consumption state. So that is step 3. If starts with logistics parks, fulfillment centers, followed by export-oriented industries, followed by a proper industrialization, if I would say. We are also from our side, even though the concession agreement predominantly talks about container as a business, from an Adani side, we are looking at this port to be developed as a truly multi-cargo port. That means that I'll be able to handle containers, I'll be able to handle dry cargo, I'll be able to handle liquid cargo, right? So that's our commitment. The first steps are fantastic so far, what we have seen. So I would see that in the next 3 to 5 years horizon, you can see a significant development that is going to happen in this region.
Yes. So other than revenue, people always talk about the job opportunities, what Adani Group, Adani Port is going to provide. It's all about providing job opportunities and empowering the local employment, especially focusing on the fishermen community or the locals over here in Vizhinjam. What is the job opportunity specifically Adani Vizhinjam Port is going to provide in Kerala?
I would take it in two different ways, right? So phase one, there is a direct employment, there is an indirect employment, right? Direct employment in terms of people who actually work. I would say that close to 70% or so approximately is people from Kerala. My employment is. And from Trivandrum it is about 55 or 60%, plus or minus here and there. But local area about 30 or 40%. And this is just phase one, right? So I need to have, this is 800 meters of berth, and then another 1200 meters is supposed to be constructed. Multi-cargo, dry cargo, liquid, and so on and so forth. We'll maybe open some tank farms, we will open some CFSs, etc. Right? So these are directly going to be associated with Adani, and there is going to be employment which is given. As I said that, but having said that, that is going to be a limited number of people that gets employed. We need to look at it holistically from the perspective of what kind of jobs that it creates in this region. Multiple CFSs will come, thousands of trucks will ply. You would need spaces for, cargo handling, right? And there will be customs houses, clearance agents, and so on and so forth, right? I'm just talking about direct, immediate impact. Crew change will happen. That means that hotels, hotel rooms, restaurants, your cab services, and so on and so forth, right? Those are the things which will happen in the next year and a half or so, where you will have employment. The next step is actually the industrialization, when fulfillment centers and other thing comes. That will kind of ramp up the employment opportunities that we have. Having spent time in Mundra and visited few other ports, I would always say that there is going to be fairly high demand for people across different skill sets in projects like this. All we need to have is some sort of patience, because it cannot happen overnight, right? So because that ecosystem needs to develop. So today the road is yet to be completed, the rail is yet to be completed, right? All that brings in additional business opportunities to this port and state, and thereby growth opportunities and employment opportunities.
Yeah, but when you talk about this indirect job options, you mentioned, it's all about the logistics, warehouses, and other allied parts too. That also Kerala has got a lot of potential in that.
Correct, absolutely. See, the advantage that Kerala has is the human capital, fairly educated, good quality people. So that means that there will be no hesitancy in industries to come here and set up. We talked enough about there's a perception about the state that's slowly changing. The more industrialization it happens, and more success stories emerge, like Vizhinjam Port. There are going to be more investors that are going to come and set up their shop.
Okay, so you were talking about the industrial part. So how will development of supporting infrastructure, even such as CES and the logistic hubs, how is it contribute to the industrial growth and port-led development in Vizhinjam specifically?
So see, the infrastructure is extremely important. A good road rail connectivity, that is something which is important. I would say, give some examples, right? You see the top cities of the world, let it be Hong Kong, let it be Singapore, let it be Rotterdam, even Port of Los Angeles, you name it, those were all trade centers. When I say trade centers, actual cargo that is going to and fro. Singapore is what Singapore is just because of transshipment. Because it doesn't have the same constraint as Kerala, limited land that is available, but the kind of ecosystem that they have developed for a thriving cargo exchange facility. Yesterday I was speaking to certain businessmen who's doing bunkering. Surprisingly, they say Singapore does one of the maximum amount of bunkering, right? How did they do? Because I mean, they also get, refineries are difficult to set up. It needs a lot of land, but they find out a way to kind of make sure that the ecosystem is set up so that it becomes easy for ships to come there and have their fuel needs taken care, right? So that is what is something which is extremely important, right? We can't look at this as a piecemeal. We need to look at it holistically, right? I think that is what the government is also trying to do. They have identified the growth triangle, outer area growth corridor, right? This Kollam, Trivandrum, Punalur triangle, and so on and so forth. I think that's the right way of looking at it. What are the industries is one way of looking at it, and what are the ecosystem that needs to be developed. So that's something which is important. So as I said, this is 3, 5, 10, 15-year project. Mundra is what Mundra is today is because of 25 years of action has happened there, right? So it didn't happen overnight. I think that's the vision that we should have. And you will start seeing the results in the next 3-4 years, right? So that's my view.
It's always a big picture, I know that. So coming to the point you mentioned, elaborating to that strategic advantage by reducing reliance on transshipments such as Dubai, Colombo and Singapore. How Vizhinjam Port is poised to enhance India's maritime trade efficiency and position Kerala as a pivotal player in a global shipping?
So today, as I said that first, India did about roughly 22 million TEUs last year in terms of export-import cargo. Shanghai port did little over 50 million TEUs, one port. So that's a kind of a difference that we are looking at. China has a lot of 30 million and about ports, 3-4 of them already exist, right? So they are fairly significantly much larger scale compared to what we are today, right? So we need port infrastructure as a country. So the recently announced Vadhavan port, first time in India something really was thinking big, right? So the capacity of that is 23 million is what is envisioned, right? So in Vizhinjam, the contract mentions about 3 million, but we are looking at 5 million from our side, right? So because that's a potential that we have. So that is one, right? India badly needs ports infrastructure. And then the infrastructure that is coming in a place like Vizhinjam, so exactly divides the east and west coast, right in the middle, right? So you not only have an opportunity to consolidate the cargo from both the sides, but also from the Southeast Asian region, right? Bangladesh cargo today gets transshipped through Colombo, right? And some other, maybe Thailand or somewhere around it. And similarly, certain countries towards the western side. So we are pretty well positioned from that perspective of your ability to consolidate cargo at a very, very low cost, which is highly important. And as I said that almost all of our east coast, the primary hub of our export, majority of it happens through west coast, which is through Bombay and Mundra, but anything that is in east coast goes through outside of India. So that roughly adds $200 to $600, $700 per container extra. So obviously then you can understand the competitiveness scale, how much it will impact, especially as SME, right, kind of a sector. So those are the things which we are trying to address. Even Tirupur as an example, the garment exporter, they send their cargo by road either to Tuticorin or to Cochin or to Chennai. I don't think so it goes to Chennai, but maybe Tuticorin. And Tuticorin it is handled and then it gets sent to Colombo without a guarantee that it is going to be immediately moved out. Then it can catch a main line or it still goes to Salala and then from there it goes. But we are about 120 kilometers from Tuticorin, right? If they kind of ship it to us, that kind of significantly cuts additional port handling, that's about 10,000 rupees or so a container. So naturally we get a bigger advantage.
Yes,
right?
the foreseen capacity of Vizhinjam, as you mentioned, in the final phase, it's going to be 3 or 5 million, but in the initial phase.
So initial phase, our calculated or the government calculated capacity is 1 million. But we are very confident that with the kind of a technology in the automation and Adani's way of operating with our expertise, we say we can do about 1.5 million
in the first phase.
In the first phase.
Okay. So coming to the location, in the earlier time you mentioned about that location of Vizhinjam Port advantageous because it enables to accommodate some of the world's largest cargo vessels without extensive dredging. Please just elaborate on that.
So it's a big advantage, right? So our natural draft is somewhere between 18.5 and 19. And yesterday, I think we did the record. I think 18.7 meter, one of the deepest need for a vessel to be berthed. I think we just did it yesterday successfully. There is a concept called lateral drift where basically sand comes and starts settling. The kind of geographical advantage that we have here doesn't allow the settlement of sand. So that doesn't necessarily necessitate us to do any maintenance dredging. That means that all through the year we will get the natural depth of 18.5, 19, whatever that is there, that is available. Compared to, if I look at Cochin, they spend about 150 crores a year additionally in terms of dredging costs. So the more the cost is, you need to obviously change that into your pricing, right? So then we become non-competitive, right? So this is just an advantage. One is it's a natural harbor with deep draft, so people can come and very close to the sea highway or the seaway. So it is just 10 nautical miles away. So your ability to bring in a ship. The second thing is at any point of a time, right? In certain ports, which many ports in India, they are capable of handling the large ship. But just before that, they do a quick dredging and make sure that they have the enough depth that is available. We don't need to worry about that. At any point of a time, we can do that. The classic example was Claude Girardet, the largest ship that ever called India. We suddenly got a call that they had an issue to fix. Will you be able to handle it? We said, okay, bring it, right? So we didn't have to do any homework or preparation or anything because we were ready to handle it, right?
So investment is, what fuels every businesses. And what is the real investment of Adani Port? Then, and what is the role of state and central in that investment part?
So the state has said that they have spent about 5,500 crores on this project through a funded work, which they give it to people like us because we built something based on a specific amount of construction, especially the breakwater, and then the settlement with the local population and so on and so forth, right? So that's the state government's contribution, fairly significant amount. There is a central component on VGF, a state component of VGF. The state component is paid by the state to make this project commercially viable. That's about 812 odd crores. And then there is a central component of VGF too. So that the state and central are discussing at this point of a time to find a resolution. So that is the government component. So Adani's component on paper is about 2,500 odd crores in the scheme of the planning. But because of the delay of the project, the cost has significantly gone up. The project is a significant project both from the country perspective as well as for Adani, because we really wanted to have a world-class port when the port was conceptualized. So we really thought that this should really be a Hong Kong or a Singapore or a Rotterdam, right? And not anything in the local vicinity, right? So we wanted it to be a class apart and wanted it to be a world class. So we did spend additional money from also that perspective. But as I said that, we take this as a pride for Adani too. So that's phase one. What is the final number? We'll get to know this financial year, right? We have just completed the phase one. What is exactly our component? Phase two, it's approximately about 10,000 odd crores for the container facilities development. But then you have liquid and dry and other things. that will be anywhere between, another 5,000-7,000 crores. So anywhere between 15 to 20,000 crores is something which we are looking at spending.
So Adani Group is, working with many other states and governments. So what are the uniqueness you feel while working with the Kerala government?
So I'm fairly new here, right? So I'll take that as an excuse.
But still as an official statement.
No, which I've been telling, right?
Yeah.
So my experience here has been fairly pleasant. Quite a bit has happened positively in the last 1 year. Around this time last year is when I took over, end of January. Took over in the sense I moved here, and we were not confident of birthing a ship. And it was very difficult to plan for the financial year. From that situation to we crossing 150 ships, more than 3 lakh containers, that's a phenomenal achievement. And for sure that wouldn't have happened without the active involvement and support of the government agencies and government themselves, right from Honorable Chief Minister's support and larger vision to every minister, right from Honorable Ports Minister to Industries Minister to Fisheries Minister. Everybody played their respective part. And also customs and immigration, right? So it is basically customs port. That's how it is defined, right? So all of them, came together in the last 1 year or so. I think that is why everybody talks about it today is because all of them coming together, right?
Okay. So finally, to the startups or small companies working in the logistics and the port allied services, what is your advice to them, or what is your word to them? What are the opportunities Vizhinjam Port is providing to them?
See, I say this as an example. I think I met with a bunch of startup people. They visited here, right? So this is technologically fairly advanced port. So come have a look at it first and try to understand what can be done from a technology perspective. We use AI, we use IoT, and so on and so forth, right? Second thing I also say is that have an open mind. I think my boss has also started giving this example now, right? I always give this example that how do you link two industries which are totally non-related? But if you have an open mind, everything can be done. The classic example, when I first went to Mundra, I was very surprised to see a Britannia factory there, right? So see, that same surprise. What is Britannia doing in a place like Mundra? The high-end biscuits that, or some of those confectionery stuff that happens, sells in Europe and US, they import the materials through the port. They make those special export specific bakery items or biscuits, and then it gets exported there, right? So that is a classic example, right? Nobody will expect a Britannia to set up a factory, but that is an opportunity that you have. I gave this example also that CPG, beauty products and so on, right? The in thing now is the Korean stuff, right? So you have this opportunity, right? So because you can get the materials from Korea in whatever format it is, have local as well as global manufacturing that you will be able to do, right? So the opportunities are in plenty, other than your regular electronics and so on and so forth. Quite a bit from a perspective of your ability to do algorithms in terms of your warehouse location, warehouse layout, the trucking optimization, and so on and so forth. Similarly, quite a bit on AI application in terms of cargo identification, defects identification, and so on and so forth. So the opportunities are in plenty. You have an open mind, you think out of the box.
Yes, as you mentioned right now, Vizhinjam Port will boost Kerala's economy through trade, jobs, and revenue. Thank you for sharing the insight with us. Thank you for joining with us. Thank you.